There are mornings when you rise and move through the day as though wearing a life that almost fits, yet not quite. The hands perform their small duties. The voice answers when called, and still something within remains distant. Like a traveler who has walked too long without noticing the road, you begin to sense a quiet question forming beneath the ordinary rhythm of your days. You laugh when laughter is expected. You nod when agreement is easy. Over the years, these gestures become fluent, almost automatic. Yet in quiet moments, you may notice a strange feeling, as though the person others meet each day is only a surface reflection, while the deeper voice within you has grown quiet, patient, and strangely unfamiliar. This feeling rarely arrives as a loud crisis. It is quieter than that. It sits beside you in long evenings or during brief pauses between tasks, a gentle heaviness difficult to name. Not exactly sadness, not quite confusion. Only the growing sense that somewhere along the way, the connection between who you are and how you live has grown faint. Days begin to resemble one another. The same roads, the same words, the same small reactions repeated again and again. Routine is not the enemy, yet sometimes within repetition the deeper self slowly fades into the background. Like a quiet observer watching life unfold, you move forward, yet feel strangely absent from your own story. And yet something inside continues to whisper. Not loudly, not urgently, but with quiet persistence. A sense that life might feel different if you could simply hear yourself again. Beneath the noise of expectation and habit, there remains a softer voice. Patient, steady, and waiting for your attention. Sooner or later the question arrives. Perhaps while walking alone, perhaps during a silent evening, it is simple, almost childlike. When did I stop feeling like myself? The mind searches gently through memory, through choices, through quiet compromises made long ago. And somewhere within that search, the story begins to reveal its deeper shape. The human mind is remarkably skilled at adaptation. From childhood onward, it quietly learns which emotions are welcome and which are better hidden. Approval becomes warmth. Disapproval becomes a quiet warning. Slowly, almost invisibly, we shape ourselves to fit the spaces around us, often without realizing how much of our original voice we have set aside. Many of the patterns that distance us from ourselves were not created as enemies. They were once small protections, ways of staying safe, avoiding conflict, earning acceptance. The mind builds these habits carefully, like quiet armor. And over time, what once protected us may slowly become the very thing that keeps our deeper self hidden. Emotions rarely disappear when ignored. Instead, they settle quietly beneath the surface, shaping our reactions in subtle ways. A moment of tension, a sudden irritation, a feeling we cannot fully explain. These are often echoes, reminders from parts of ourselves that were never fully heard. The mind also builds loops of thought, small repeating questions that circle quietly through the day. Did I say the right thing? Should I have done something different? These loops rarely bring clarity. Instead, they keep attention trapped within familiar paths, slowly pulling us away from the simple experience of being present. As these patterns continue quietly through the years, the distance grows almost unnoticed. The original curiosity, the natural instincts, the small sparks of authenticity become quieter. Not lost, simply buried beneath layers of adaptation. And so the strange feeling remains. The sense of living a life that somehow belongs to you, yet does not fully feel like home. Yet, something important happens the moment you begin to notice. Awareness itself is a quiet turning point. When you recognize the pattern, the distance, the quiet disguise you have worn for so long, the story begins to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but with the gentle opening of a door that was never truly locked. Reconnection often begins with something very small, a moment of honesty, a pause long enough to ask yourself what you truly feel. At first, the answers may arrive quietly, almost shyly, but each time you listen without judgment, the forgotten parts of yourself begin to speak a little more clearly. Sometimes rediscovering yourself begins not with grand changes, but with gentle boundaries. A quiet no, a decision that feels honest rather than convenient. These small moments may appear simple from the outside, yet within they restore something powerful. The sense that your life once again belongs to you. With time, presence begins to return. The simple experience of walking, breathing, noticing the world again. You may realize that the stranger you once felt within was never truly gone, only waiting beneath layers of habit, patiently holding the shape of who you have always been. Something surprising often appears during this process. The self you rediscover is not smaller than before, but wider, more patient, more compassionate toward its own imperfections. Like a traveler, returning home after a long journey, you begin to see your own mind with a gentler understanding. And perhaps that is the quiet truth behind the feeling of being a stranger to yourself. It was never a failure, only a long forgetting. A life shaped by adaptation, expectation, and time. Yet the path back has always been simple. A little awareness, a little honesty, and the courage to listen again to the quiet voice that has patiently waited within you all along. Reconnecting with yourself rarely happens all at once. It appears in small moments. A decision that feels honest. A quiet evening where your thoughts no longer rush so loudly. You begin noticing the world again. The air, the light, the simple rhythm of your own breath. Slowly, the distance that once felt so confusing begins to soften, and something inside you starts to feel familiar again. And perhaps the quiet truth is this: you are never truly lost. The mind simply learned to protect, to adapt, to survive the many expectations of the world. Yet beneath all those layers, the deeper self remained patient and unchanged. And the moment you begin listening again, the long distance between who you are and who you have become slowly begins to close.